What's up, y'all? How's it going? How's it going? In this video, I'm announcing that I'm actually leaving Denmark. I live my love of my life, my birth country, Denmark. I'm leaving. It is time for me to leave. And yeah, it's not like I hate Denmark. It's just that I don't feel, how can I say, I don't feel like I belong here. I don't feel like I can be the best here. I don't. It's not like I'm waking up and like, yeah, yes, man, I'm happy and like people. Yeah, I already kind of like exposed it there, right? Like it's people, like Denmark has given me a lot. I'm born and raised here, took my education here, and healed. I used a lot of thousands and thousands of hours of healing and finding out what I want to do. And Denmark gave me peace. It gave me peace to think about. Okay, what is it that I should do with my life? Who is Jin? So in that kind of way, it gave me that peace. But now it's time to evolve from that, and which also means that I want to change environment. I want to change environment because I feel because happiness is free. Happiness comes within. Your inner world reflects your outer world. But why not be the happiest in a place where you just feel that people are much more open. Why not be in that place? And that is also what one of the main reason is that I'm leaving this country, because it is people. If I have to list them up, for example, if I have to start with the good things, right? So the good things about Denmark is that it's safe, it's pretty clean, people are kind, and it's just, yeah, that's I think that, and then my family's here. That would personally, from a personal perspective, family and friends are here. But on top of that, like, there's nothing like really more. Like, I've had time to heal, and also, like, you're not, for example, you can also talk about like the safety system, that okay, if you're homeless, it's your own fault. And if you don't, if you struggle to make ends meet, there will be a lot of help, but that can also be a drawback. Because initially I thought that a positive thing, right? For example, let's say that you don't have any job, you're dropped out, or if you lose your, you cannot pay your housing, blah blah blah. You can get money for that, right? And if you're sick, you don't need to pay there too. Everything is free. Even if you want an operation, everything is free. You even, like, if you want to start an education, you can even get, you don't need to pay for that in far most cases. And in far most cases, you also get money to attend to uni, or whatever education you're going through. It's crazy. So in that, Denmark is excellent. And also, like, you can, when you start a family here, there's many, many benefits when you start a family here as well, right? But but again, like, the drawback is the people. That's one of the main ones, because people are sterile. They're not open. They're not vibey. They're not like, yeah, let's go. They don't look you in the eyes. So all those things means a lot for me. Because I've been nearly to 40 countries, right? I've been living in various countries. For example, I lived in Turkey. I lived in Sydney, Australia. People are much more friendly. Much more open, especially in Australia. And I traveled. For example, I traveled in Africa, and people are like more open. They're more vibrant. I went to Philippines. I went to my own origin country, which is Sri Lanka. People are just much more smiley. So it just means you don't need it, but in a way, I feel like it just makes the quality of life so much better. And then I'm willing to take a risk with the, to do a trade-off with the cleanliness. Like, it's really clean here. The infrastructure is pretty high, and salary is pretty high but I'm not gonna work in corporate anyway, right? I'm gonna work for myself, and I made a way to do that, and I will link all that in the description as well. But yeah, to the main reason is the people. For example, like, when I go out, I go out, not like in the nightclub, night-wise, right? But let's say I go out on a daily, I just start to greet people. Hey, what's up? How's it going? They avoid eye contact. All the other countries, they seek for it, or at least they look for it. They just look you in the eyes and be greet. So, for example, every time I meet people from, I just see random people from India, Africa here, for example, right? Sometimes even Asians, but mostly, yeah, Indians are Asians, but like South Asians, Africans, sometimes Latin people as well. But they look you in the eyes. But the Scandinavians are like very reserved, you know, and that is the thing, like, oh, super super reserved. And then when you wanna like greet them and say hi to them, hey, how's it going and stuff like that, then you know sometimes you get good, but most times they're just like cold, you know, cold, reserved. And I'm like, I've educated people in building up their network. I talk to strangers every single day, you know. It's like, oh, it's tough, you know. It's an uphill battle, you know. So if you're, again, like there's some advantages in that. And when I talk with the Danes, and I'm a Dane myself, you know, I've been here for 30 years, you know. So there are some, I can put myself in that way of thinking that, okay, you can be to yourself, you know, you can just take care of yourself. As an introvert, this is the perfect country for you, you know, because everybody just mind their own damn business, you know, like everybody, right? For example, it's so, how can I say, normal to see like people on their phone all the time. They just bury their head in their fucking smartphone. Even though they are sitting next to each other and they're having a break, they're still like, it looks so comical. Even today when I was passing these construction workers, they're on a break, they're smoking cigarette, coffee and shit, right? And then they sit next to each other, but their fucking heads are buried in the phone, you know. And then the other day I saw like a whole family and all of them are buried in the phone. And it didn't look like they were looking for anything or something like that, you know, but like there were the kids, the mother and the father. Each of them are like having their heads in their phone, you know. And in Africa, for contrast, right, like I was in Tanzania, they are just chilling, man. Like, for example, I lived in this Airbnb, this really nice Airbnb in this nice neighborhood in Tanzania, in the capital, Dar es Salaam. And then every time I go out, I see these 4 or 5 chaps, you know, like just sitting there on a bench and just talking, interacting, being social. Nobody, I tell you, like nobody had a smartphone. Like they're just chilling, man. They're just in the present moment and socializing and, you know, entertaining the thing and the experience of being a human being, right? So that was like really astonishing for me, like coming from a place here, like where I'm from the smartphone, you know, I'm from that age, you know, when I was younger, like I grew up with that fucking smartphone, grew up with phones though, and then smartphones later. So yeah, but again, like people, yeah, they're so sterile. And the other day I watched these documentaries on Danish national TV that where, you know, I saw like these Danes and they lived abroad, right? Like these Danish guys, ethnicity, Danish by ethnicity as well, right? So white Danes, and they moved out of Denmark. And they also mentioned people, you know. There was this one guy who went and settled down in Uganda, and then he started his own business, blah blah blah. And then the journalist is like, why is it that you don't go back to Denmark? What is the reason you don't go back to Denmark? And then I think he freezes, and then he's like, I think he's thinking like, okay, what the fuck? Like, is this? I have to answer this with a smirk, you know? And then he answers that with a smirk, and then he's like, Danes are just sterile. Like, it's crazy, you know. And it is so right, you know. It's like there's something missing. There's this life I miss, this livelihood, you know, that I miss this. And it's just like, what? You know, it's, for example, I have some other example. Even go for expat. Even goes for expats. You know, the expats who are here, they're a little bit more open. But then, you know, for example, like I greeted a guy who goes to the, you know, same facility as I do, right? So I was like, okay, let me just give myself a challenge and then go and greet him. I greet him, like, hey, what's up, man? How's it going? Blah blah blah. And then I, you know, introduce myself, even say hi to him. Then, you know, the other day, and then the third time I'm there, and then I see that guy again, like, okay, let me just wait, you know, like, and then there's nothing. It's just like crazy. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. Even And the other was like, the other incident was like a guy I always say hi to, like, hey, what's up? Hey, 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 hey. And then I think I greeted him like 7, 8 times, and then I'm like, okay, let me not greet. And then the guy, there's no reaction, nothing. It's just typical, But if I go to other places, they just greet you immediately. Like they greet you without not seeing you. They're smiling, they're vibrating, they're dancing. They have a lot of stories to share. They're like on, They're like fucking on. But here, opposite, So that I can survive because I'm used to it. I'm used to it. I speak the language. I know how to make connections anyway, even though it's much harder here. I still go for it because I'm very spiritual, so I see these people as a fraction of myself, and it's a journey. It's just me just being shy, just me just being introvert. It's all one, So with that mindset, it's easier for me, but still I'm like, okay, I can easily survive here, but then that's it, I'll just have a life that is that, and then I can build up my business, but I'm still happy, but I can be even more happier in a place where people are much more open, So that's why I am trading this thing about people, like people's openness, so sociability, or whatever you call that, like, and then on top of that you have nature, much beautiful nature, the weather is just so much better, much more affordable, but that if you make money, then if you make a lot of money, if you make good amount of money, then that can be a little plus, but still, right, like that is a plus. Yeah, it's just that's it, I guess, yeah. So I trade all that towards the cold weather, the cold people, and it is expensive, and then nature, the lack of beautiful, really nice, beautiful nature, So do like a trade, and and I also encourage people like you, like I encourage everybody to follow their heart, because I meet people quite some time, like they have the desire, the hunger, how can I say, the wish to move out, they really want to move out. But then if you really dissect and really challenge these guys, like, hey, are you really happy here? Do you love to be here? Do you love to be in Denmark? And then I can quickly, because I'm pretty energetic, so I have a notion and a quite good intuition, I would say, to kind of figure out, okay, is this guy really happy here, or not, but there's some blockage. For example, I met this other girl who's working in a jewelry store, right? And then I fell in talk with her, and then I'm like, are you happy? Like, or you like Denmark, blah, blah. And then she's like, I love Denmark. So with her, I could just feel, okay, she loves it, with no doubt, right? But yeah, for the rest, then I just encourage you guys to like, do you really want to spend your even best years in a country where you clearly know you don't belong? Do you really want to do that? What is holding you back? For me, it was at that time, what was holding me back, because I can just tell this story quick as well, So since 2017, like, I felt like, okay, I really want to live a life where I can just travel and be in another place, right? 2017, so that's 8 years ago, when I was in Sydney. And ever since then, I've been heavily traumatized and troubled to really fulfill that, right? Like, I've done like big travels, but then ever since I was like, fuck, how do I make this happen, But now I finally see that it can happen, because I've released a lot of my trauma, for example, money trauma, money/financial trauma, trauma around the lack of love, and other kind of trauma, which now I'm like, okay, I can make that decision now. I can actually move, I'm making this happening pretty soon, So this is my last year, so I cannot see myself live here. The next year I'm somewhere, because we're also approaching winter here, so that motivates me too. And I put some deadlines as well to really like, okay, focus on this, because I'm doing this for myself, So that, I think that's my video around like, okay, I'm actually moving out of Denmark, and why is it that I'm moving out, and yeah, and also a video about like following your heart, following your desire, you know, and see, okay, can I make this happen, you know, and why, right? And if you're like, do you know what, fuck, man, I saw this video of Jin, and okay, he has a point, you know, maybe I have some inner blockages, some shame, maybe some inner things that kind of like stops me from making that big move, then you're always welcome to write. You can even fill out this form, you know, because the form is around exactly these things like inner blockages and stuff like that, around how you feel. So maybe you feel rejected, you know, maybe that's why you don't want to move out. You know, maybe you don't love yourself, maybe you hate yourself, maybe that's the reason why you don't want to move out, right? But anyway, I love you guys, and I wish you the best day, and stay curious and find out what is that you want to do. Let's go.